Hello, my lovely viewers. Welcome again to Mathematics and I. It is your favorite presenter, Jeff Nino, and today we have a question that we shall be solving. And the question says, if the product of three terms of a GP is 512, if 8 is added to the first term and 6 is added to the second term, so that the number may be in arithmetic progression, then the numbers are okay. Now if you take a look at this question very well, you will understand that we have the combination of arithmetic progressions and geometric progressions. So let us see how we can solve a problem like this. Now let us begin again. It says if the product of three terms of a GP. Now three terms of a GP are a arrow, and a arrow raised to the power of 2. Now these are three terms of a GP. Now we were told that the product is 512. So it means a times a arrow times a arrow raised to the power 2 is equal to 512. Now if we should multiply through, a times a gives us a raised to the power 3, okay? And r times r raised to the power 2 gives us r raised to the power 3. Now also I can make 512 becomes 8 raised to the power of 3. Now a and r has a common power, which is 3. So I can also write it as a arrow all raised to the power of 3 equal to 8 raised to the power of 3. Now because both bases are carrying same powers and an equality sign separates them, power 3 cancels out power 3. So what do I have? A arrow is equal to 8. Now from this equation, I can choose to make the first term, which is a, the subject of the formula by dividing both sides by arrow. So when arrow should cancel out arrow, I have first term as 8 over arrow. Now if we have our first term as 8 over arrow, let us come back to the terms that was given in GP. Now I have a here. Now a is now 8 over arrow. So when I write this, it becomes 8 over arrow, okay, comma. Now a again is 8 over arrow. So here becomes 8 over arrow into the bracket of arrow, which is this arrow here, okay? And also 8 over arrow into the bracket of arrow raised to the power 2. Are you with me? Now from this point of view, we are going to see that we have something like this. 8 over arrow, comma, 8. And how did I get 8? Arrow cancels arrow. And comma, here we have 8 arrow. And how did I get 8 arrow? If arrow should cancel out arrow square, I will get just arrow. So it means these three terms are in GP. Okay, these are the three terms in GP. Now, we were told in the question that 8 was added to the first term, and then 6 was also added to the second term. Now, 8 and 6 were added, and so the new terms we had became an arithmetic progression according to the question. So let us add. If I should add 8 to the first term, remember our first term there is 8 over arrow. So it becomes 8 over arrow plus 8, comma. And then we were told that 6 was added to the second term. Now our second term here is 8. So if I should add 6 to 8, it becomes 14. Here becomes 14. And our third term remains what? 8 arrow, because nothing was added to it. Okay, now these three terms now we were now told is now in AP, arithmetic progression. Now the next question said, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? Now let us see. From this point of view, we can get the value of our arrow. And how can we get the value of our arrow? You will notice that our first term here is 8 over arrow plus 8, our second term is 14, and our third term is 8 arrow. Now, if you notice between these three terms, it is only 14 that has a number which has arrow, and 14 is our second term. So, I will use the nth term formula now for AP using the second term as case study. Now, the nth term formula for AP is Tn is equal to A plus n minus 1d. But now, because we are making use of the second term, n now becomes 2, the number of terms. So, here becomes T2 is equal to A is the first term, which is what? 8 over arrow plus 8, okay, plus Now our n is 2, so we have 2 minus 1. And our d is common difference. And how do you get common difference? Either you say second term minus first term or third term minus second term. Now in this case, it will be better if we use third term minus second term, okay, in order to do away with the fraction. So our common difference now becomes 8r minus 14. Okay, now from this point of view, our second term in this question is given as 14. So T2 now becomes 14 is equal to 8 over r plus 8 plus 2 minus 1 gives us 1. And 1 times 8r minus 14 also gives us 8r minus 14. Now here, what we're going to do is this. We have a denominator, r. Now we multiply all through by the denominator, r. So let us say multiply all through by r. So if I multiply all through by r, 14 times r gives us 14r is equal to. Now 8 times r gives us 8r. But 8r divided by r will give us just 8 plus 8 times r gives us again 8r plus 8r times r gives us 8r squared minus 14 times r gives us minus 14r. Okay, now without wasting time, let us proceed. Here you will see that in this new equation, our highest degree is 2. So it means this question leads to a quadratic equation. Now without wasting time, for also obey the formula for quadratic equation which says ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. It means let us take everything to the right hand side of the equation and equate it to 0. And if we do that, first of all, 8r squared comes out. Now plus 8r minus 14r. Now if 14r crosses, it becomes also minus 14r. Then what do I have here? Plus 8, all equal to 0. Okay. Now here becomes 8r squared. Now 8r minus 14r will give us minus 6r. And minus 6r minus 14r will give us minus 20r, okay, plus 8 equal to 0. Now, if you notice, I have 8, I have minus 20, and I have 4. Now, I have a common number that can divide the whole of it, and that number is 4. Now, if I should divide all through by 4, 8r squared divided by 4 gives us 2r squared. 20r divided by 4 gives us 5r, and 8 divided by 4 gives us 2, and also 0 divided by 4 gives us 0. Now, from here, we are going to apply factorization method in solving this question. Now, if we want to factorize, this is what we're going to do. At this point in contact, our a here is 2, our b is minus 5, and our c is 2. Now, you will notice that the value of a, which is 2, is greater than 1. Now, when you are solving quadratic equation and you are applying factorization method, this is what you do. If the value of a is greater than 1, use the value to multiply your c. Now, the value of a is 2 and the value of c is 2. So if 2 should multiply 2, I will get 4. So what does that mean? It means we are going to think of two numbers that when we multiply together, it will give us a positive 4, and when we add the numbers together, it will give us a negative 5, which is b. And the numbers are minus 1 and minus 4. Because minus 4 times minus 1 gives us a positive 4, and minus 4 plus minus 1 gives us a negative 5. So now that we have gotten the two numbers to be minus 4 and minus 1, this is what you are going to do. The two numbers will replace the middle number here, not the first and not the last, just the middle. So this is what we're going to get. 2r squared. Now instead of writing minus 5r, I will now write minus 4r, which is one of the two numbers, and again minus r. Now there's no need saying minus 1r. No, you can just say minus r. So minus 4 minus 1 were the two numbers we thought of, and these two numbers has replaced the middle number. Now what do we do now? Plus 2 equal to 0. Now from this point, this is what we are going to get. Now 2r squared and 4r have 2r in common. Now we are about to factorize. Now because they have 2r in common, we'll bring it up. 2r. Now open the bracket. Now, if 2 arrows should cancel 2 arrows square, I will get arrow. Now, what sign do I have here? Minus. Now, if 2 arrows should cancel 4 arrows, I will get 2. Close the bracket. Now, what sign do we have here? Minus. Now, what does arrow and 2 have in common? Nothing. But when there's nothing, it means there's something. And what is that thing? 1. When you see nothing in common, it means 1 is in common. So I'll bring out the 1 which they have in common, and I'll open a bracket. 1 into arrow plus 2 here will give us arrow minus 2. Now I know you will be wondering why the plus changes to minus. It is simple. Because if I want to open this bracket, coming back to this point, minus times minus will give us what? Plus. But if we should use plus here, minus times plus will give us minus, and which is not here. Now equal to 0. Now at this point, this is what we're going to do. Now, you will notice that what I have in the bracket are the same. Now, whenever you factorize, what you have in the bracket must be the same. So because they are the same, this is what we're going to do. Now, the 2 arrow and minus 1 outside the bracket, we're going to bring it out. 2 arrow minus 1 equates to 0. Or, pick any of the 1 inside the bracket because they are the same. Arrow minus 2 is also equal to 0. Here, we are going to make arrow the subject of the formula. Okay. Now, if we make arrow the subject of the formula, we're going to get this. Here, I have to collect like terms because I can't remove 1 from 2 arrow. So if negative 1 crosses the equality, it becomes a positive 1. So here it becomes 2 arrow is equal to 1 or arrow is equal to 2. Now, here, for us to make arrow the subject, I have to divide both sides by 2. So when 2 cancel out 2, I have arrow is equal to half or arrow is equal to 2. Okay, now we have gotten the values for arrow. But don't forget the question said, what are the numbers? Now, here we have terms, 3 terms in GP. We have 3 terms in AP. So let us see how we can bring all of the answers. First, let us bring the answers in GP. Now, for GP, you will now, let us use when arrow is half first. When arrow is half. Now, if we are solving with GP, so we're going to be using this. So it means we're going to be having 8 over arrow 9 is half. So here becomes 8 over 1 over 2, comma, 8, comma, and 8 arrow becomes what's now? 8 into bracket 1 over 2. Alright. Now, 8 divided by 1 over 2 gives us 16, comma, and here we have 8. And 8 times 1 gives us 8, and 8 divided by 2 gives us 4. Now, this is when we make use of 1 over 2. Now, let us make use of 2 when r is 2. Now, when r is 2 again, we come here. So here becomes 8 over 2, comma, 8, and 8 into bracket 2. So 8 over 2 gives us 4, 8, and 8 times 2 gives us 16. Now, these 2 answers are for the terms in GP when we use arrow as half and what arrow as what 2. Now, if we want to solve now for the AP, terms for AP using arrow, this is what we are also going to do. To solve for AP, okay, to solve for AP now, we're going to be using this. Now, AP. Now, when r again is half, so here becomes, what's it called? 8 over r, which is 8 over half plus 8, comma, 14, comma, and 8 into bracket half. Are you with me? Now, 8 divided by half gives us 16, and 16 plus 8. So let's break it down. So here becomes 16 plus 8, 14, and 8 times 1, 8, 8 divided by 2, 4. Now 16 plus 8 gives us 24, so here we have 24, 14, 4. Now this is the first answer when r is half. Now the last one we're going to look now is when r is equal to 8. Again we're going to say 8 over 2 plus 8, comma, 14, and 8 into bracket 2. Now 8 over 2 gives us 4 plus 8, 14, and 16. Now 4 plus 8 gives us 12, 14, and 16. So this becomes the numbers when we solve the question for today. So I believe you've learned something new today, and yes, if you have any further questions, you can ask in the comment section. And this is your first time joining us, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and bye for now. Yes.